Hey everyone, I have a quick easy here today. Aren't these cool? This one's been embossed. This is the one that inspired it. I've done this years ago, and I was going through my ephemera box to see if I could come up with some ideas. And actually, I think I was trying to do some, fill some freebie packets for some orders. And I thought, wow, that's a good idea. I haven't done that in a while. So what all this is magazine page. And I have glued it to packaging, cereal box, cracker box, some kind of box, and embossed it, and then inked around it. That's it. It is, when you emboss this kind of cardboard, it doesn't go real deep, so you can still write on the back of it, but the front of it looks so pretty. Same thing. This was shiny book page, magazine page. I just glued it on. I did some smooshing with oxide inks. The oxide inks kind of have a tendency to have a powdery coating when they dry, and that kind of takes away from the shiny so much, which is good on these magazines. And then I've just added a little bit of thread and a little sticker here with some brads, and he's sitting on a little follow your dreams. He doesn't look very happy, does he? You think he doesn't look like, maybe he's trying to figure out what his dreams are. Anyway, inked around and nice writing spot on the back. Same thing with this one. Beautiful magazine, really shiny. It's kind of showing shiny in the video, but it's really not like that in person. And I've embossed it. Again, you have good writing on the back and just inked around it. I did some smooshing on this one too to take away from the vibrancy of the picture. This was just writing, shiny writing in a magazine, probably on one of those pages. And I've embossed it, went over the embossing a little bit with Distress ink, oxide, and did some smooshing. Again, you have some good writing on the back. This one would be harder to write on because it was a thinner cardboard, so it really left some impressions. But it has this little flap. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. If I'm going to make tags. If I do, I'll just put some tea-dyed paper on the back. Or I thought about, maybe folding the other end, depending on what size journal I have, and make a nice belly band. It's sturdy and thick. Or just, a side tuck on a page. I love that. Isn't it pretty? It's like a mixed media piece. I tell you what, I got to go to, the library does 2 events a year here where I live, and they sell everything for really, really cheap. And they had these magazines. I don't even know the name of this one because I've used it a lot, so I tore the cover off of it evidently at some point, but you can tell it's a shiny magazine. It's called, I don't know what it is, but it just has beautiful pictures of gardens. Might be a home and garden, I don't know. And there's a couple of different ways to get the shiny off. A lot of people don't like, one of the ways is to, sand it a little bit, not a lot. And then it takes the color a lot better. But I think the residue from the sanding bothers some people. So what I did on some of these, I didn't do any sanding. I think these 2 I did. But on some of these others, like this one, I didn't do any sanding. I just started smooshing on some oxide inks. And I did these 2. And I'll glue them. But see, this is how they were. And now this is what it looks like. They were really shiny and vibrant. And then I just sanded them a little bit and smushed them in some Distress oxides. But I thought maybe, if you're like me, when I first started, in these pictures, I would still do this today. I just grabbed anything and everything. And they had a whole bunch of these books in a binder for like 50 cents, I think. Oh, wow. Isn't that pretty? But I mean, and I've used them. I back them with tea-dyed paper, fold them, make envelopes, like writing spots out of them. But I thought I'd show you today on some of this writing, this is a good picture. It doesn't have a lot of color. We can make, ooh, that would be a good writing spot, wouldn't it? Isn't it pretty? Make some writing spots. And I had some cardboard left over from the waterfall journals that I just built. So I thought I would use some of it. And the good thing about these kind of things is you don't have to have, I mean, you could just, I just use glue stick. It works actually better with glue stick because when you use a liquid glue, I'll show you, maybe, it will bubble your paper. Whereas if you use this one, okay, well, you can't see it now because I embossed it and it made it lay down. But before I embossed it, this was bubbled because I used a liquid glue. If you use a glue stick, it won't do that. It lays flat. But isn't this cool? Look at that writing. It was just like this. And now it's beautiful. And same with this piece right here. Isn't it pretty? And I didn't sand those. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. And then we'll take one that's already dry and we'll put it on a piece of cardboard and make a really cool writing spot out of it. So I also did some stamping. You know, I have to always do some stamping. And these are my two favorites. This one's kind of like a ledger. This one's just script. So I just took some. I used Stays On, but I also used the VersaFine. And I wasn't sure about this Slick magazine if the VersaFine would dry. And it did. It did dry. But if you're, you know, in a hurry and don't want to wait a bit, use the Stays On. It works faster as far as drying on this slick kind of paper. But I just did some stamping. Just random, even on my photos. I just did some stamping just to give it another, you know, layer. This is so easy. And I know you guys are saying, yeah, I do this all the time. But I used to do it all the time too. And I forgot about it until I was going through my ephemera box. And I thought, you know, hey, let's make some of those and I'll turn the camera on. So you can do this stamping later, or you can do it, you know, whenever. Beginning, end of this whole process. And I used just random distress inks. I got gathered twigs and some green pine needles. I even used some sprays, distress sprays. I like those really well too. But we'll do the pads this time. Throw that right in the floor. So I just do it like this. Put some on this little, it's a really bent embossing plate. I don't use it anymore because it's so bent. I actually bought it this way. This was one of the plates that came with the embossing machine. I got it at a secondhand store, so it was kind of bent up, but it was. And so I just spray it with the dab of water, and I took just a cheapy brush and kind of did it like this to get it all wet. And you can smush it, or you can do something like this. Either way you want to do it. I did it both ways. Oh, I just love it already. I mean, and I haven't even hardly done anything to it. And I like to put some of the Distress Oxide in there, but or the browns, just to grunge it down a little bit. But I also like to use some brighter colors. That's where I came in with the Wild Honey. I'm going to go ahead and add some little bit of water. Isn't that pretty? Like I said, you can splotch it on with your brush or smush it. I'm kind of wanting it in certain places right now, so I'm using my brush. But after a bit, when I get the spots I want, I'll just smush it down. And again, this was a very glossy, is a very glossy sheet. And this Distress Oxide really, really brings it down. I love these pages. They have such pretty photographs. I'll go ahead and put some green in here this time too. I don't add much water, just enough to mix it all around, get it a little bit, you know, looser than, ooh, that's pretty. Very pretty. Definitely is a difference than when you paint and you smush. The texture-wise. Am I the only one that thinks that's so pretty? And then when this dries, it kind of really puts a... It doesn't... The powdery doesn't show as much as it would on, like, you know, just paper or index cards, something like that. It just kind of brings down the vibrancy and the shiny of the picture where it's not so in your face. But that's all I would do to it. I mean, just like that. And I would, like I say, I have some here that are dry. So I'm going to make a couple of probably tags out of this one. I saw a tutorial today that really inspired me. I'm not going to do the same thing she did, but it definitely gave me something that I want to do next with some junk mail. Not the envelopes, but do you ever get those pieces that are like, kind of like a thin cardboard, and it's an advertisement? That's all it is, just a piece of cardboard. Anyway, that'll be the next thing I'm going to make some things out of. I always get such a kick if I can make something really cool out of trash. So I'm just using my glue stick. And I'm going to put it pretty heavy on my cardboard because I want to make sure it's not going to come up. And I just lay down my piece. And I can always trim around it, you know, later. I like to take something and kind of burnish it down. Trim that piece off. And then I'm going to glue it up here. I'll have 2 cards. I really like the thickness of making writing spots out of the cardboard like this. Okay, now we're going to trim this one down. Alright, now I'm going to put it in my trimmer so that I can straighten them up. These would make great pockets too if you didn't want to use them for writing spots. Oh, they would make great book boards too. Do something like this and then laminate it for your book board. How cool would that be? I think I've done that before, really. I tell you, we create so much over the years, we kind of forget what we make. Or I kind of forget what I make. I don't know about anybody else. I guess that's why I know a lot of creators make idea books. Like, you know, when they make something like this, they put it in their book. And then when they, you know, kind of, well, look at that. How smart was that? I glued it to the wrong side. I was supposed to glue it to this side. Well, that's like the dumbest thing I really, I can't believe I did that. Huh. Well, okay. Well, let me tell you, if you had glued it to the colored side, you would now have writing spots. But because I didn't, you know, I don't have writing spots. I just have a Funyun box that's pretty on one side. But it should have looked just like this. Well, it don't. So we're not going to waste it. We're going to be fine. We could put, ooh, here, I have some packing paper. I could put packing paper on the back. Let's do that. Never fear. There's always some kind of trash laying around. Can't believe. Wow. I'm never short of making mistakes, am I? The good news is we can usually fix most things. Wow. That's what happens when you get in a hurry and you're all excited about showing something, and then you just make a fool out of yourself. Sometimes. So I'm going to round these corners. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this one into a tag. I like to round these too. I don't know why. Bothers me, those little sharp corners. I like to take that tip off. So there's one tag. See what else we got we can put on the back of this one. I tea-dyed a whole bunch of this calculator tape. I was hoping it would be wide enough to put back there, but it's really not. And I don't want to cut any of this off because I like it. Here's another piece of packing paper. So we'll just stick with that. What I was looking for is, I tea-dye papers that just have a little bit of writing or something on one side, like it was a misprint or whatever, and I'll tea-dye it. And then when I back it to something, the side that had the, writing that was not correct or whatever, doesn't matter because it's back to this. So I like to use that kind of paper up too. But I couldn't find any on my desk right now. So I'm just going to stick with this. This actually has some bronze color paint on it from where I was doing something. So it's got an added color to it. I'm wondering about maybe leaving a little bit of edge to this packing paper. I kind of like it sticking out from behind there. Well, look, I goobered. I am having a good... Okay, well, forget it. Forget it. All right, I'm cutting it off. I goobered that up where it can't be. Wow. Aren't you glad I make these tutorials? I show you what to mess up. Like I say, it can always be fixed. I think this one, I'm just going to leave it as a writing spot. Might sew around that one. If I'd have had some, I could have pulled out my scraps or anything to put on the back of this. But this is what we had handy, so this is what we're going to use. So now I'm going to use a little bit of StazOn and ink around it. I really like this color of StazOn too. I'll tell you what it is in just a second. This is Timber Brown. I really like it. I'm going to sew around this one. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I did a little bit of crazy sewing around this one. Haven't done anything to this one, but I'm going to move you down a little. I'm thinking they need a little bit more color. I think I've went too Tim Holtzy here. So I was looking on this one, and it has a couple of little specks. Well, actually, I think that might be in the writing. Looks like specks. Huh? Like bullets on a paragraph. Little bullet markers. But I'm going to take some of this peacock feathers and just splatter a little bit on here. And I'm not going to wait for it to dry. Way too impatient for that, so I'm just going to dab at it. I really, really like it. I hope you do. I'm going to put a topper on this one. I'm thinking since I added that turquoise splatter, I want my eyelet to be turquoise. These eyelets are not my favorite. They're a little big. They're not the We Are memory keepers, so they don't fit the best. But if I could find my awl, I usually just ream it out a little bit more. Like that. Okay, I got blue all over my hands because I couldn't wait a second. Or I could have, used the heat tool, but nah. I got lots and lots of stickers and these Tim Holtzy felt characters. Oh, wow, she's, okay. I don't think I want to use that one. I was thinking something maybe a little smaller. Boy, these people are big. There's a little girl. Not a little happy. She ain't very happy, but she's cute. I guess they're supposed to be like that, right? They never look really happy. Or they just look confused. Something, I don't know. I usually always have a piece of muslin laying around here. I think that would look good behind something like that. Just to give it something else, I guess. I'm going to keep them pretty plain because, I don't know what they're going to go on. And plus, I like to keep things like this if I'm not sure where it's going to go exactly. I don't add a lot of thickness. I try to keep it pretty flat. Love all this extra, so I'm going to put that on there. Use a little of my vintage photo to grunge that up just a little bit. I like to get both sides just in case any of it flips over on me. And then I'm just going to ink around this little die cut stamp. I think my stamp pad's about to lose its luster. Something like this. I always like to use Fabri-Tac when I'm messing with material. And I usually don't glue it completely flat. I like the edges to be a little free. Reptile glue that Laura gave to me. Needs one more thing. Got some extra string thread here. Just kind of wrap it around my finger. Something like that. And then when I go to add it in a book, I can always add something with a little more color, maybe a tag that's, turquoise or something. I've got these nice strings hanging off. I think this one I'm just going to do something like put one of these on here. I think I'm just going to keep this one really simple. Maybe I'll use the fabric. The fabric part would be my tag. I see a little number on the page and I didn't want to cover it up, so I raised it up a little bit. And there is so much more I know that I could add to these to spruce them up. But I think for just making little extra things to tuck in pockets and kind of keep them on the neutral side, but they have a little pop of color too. I really like that. What do I want to put? If I could find a long enough piece of muslin, but I don't think I have any long enough to do that. I've got some twine. I don't really think I want twine, but let's see what it looks like. If I don't like it, I'll take it back out. That's not bad, is it? I kind of like it. I'll do a couple pieces. Guess this is what you call using what's on your desk, huh? Which, if you're anything like me, my desk is always such a mess. There's usually something I can find. There we go. What do you think? Did I mess them up really too bad? Nah, we just have this kind of backing instead of just our packaging. And that's okay. We've done okay. I think, you know, we can do this kind of thing all day. So cool. Love it. I think I got an idea. See, I just couldn't stop. And I'm not going to hang anything from it. I just like it. I like the looks of it. And I think, you know, on some of these other things, I might add tabs. I think this one would look good with the tab. I like to make tabs out of this stuff too. And even though I've got right there in that little seam thing, I'm going to use it anyway. Ink around it. And look, that little seam gives it some extra good look. I like that. Our Funyun box tab. Burnish that down just a little bit. It's pretty thick. Now I'm going to look, see what kind of stamps I can find. Here's a good one. I kind of like the wording on this one, so I'm going to use it. Just something like that. I was going to clip it over here, but it looked like it was maybe in the way of the little boy. I took away from the little boy, so I decided not to do that. A little heavy with my glue, didn't I? I tell you what else I'm going to do. I just can't leave stuff alone. And I probably won't put anything in this either. But I just think I'm going to like it. Let's see. Do I want silver or gold? I'm more of a silver kind of person. Guys, I hope this wasn't too painful to watch. We did come up with some pretty ephemera. We're going to be able to use. Believe it or not, it will look nice in journals. And we made all of this out of Funyun box and shiny magazines. Isn't it pretty? I hope you like this and we'll give it a try. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.